Look, I mean, this is really what I view as a green light to continue to buy semis as well as Apple. I mean, this was really the fear that there was going to be a wrench thrown in the supply chain with a, phase one issue, really what I view as the overhang. With that sort of more bark than bite, I view it right now that stocks in terms of semis and Apple, I think you can continue to see these stocks up another 10, 15% going forward. This was the biggest fear of tech investors going into Friday's speech.
It's interesting when you talk about the biggest fear for tech investors, because last week it felt for a couple of days anyway that more regulation could be one of the big fears as we look toward the rest of the year, given the battle that unfolded between Twitter and President Trump. Obviously, the headlines over the weekend around the protests seem to have overshadowed or dominated that story for now. But what's your take on how that story is likely to develop, and the fact that Facebook has come out effectively taking the opposite approach when it comes to President Trump and his communication?
Yeah, I mean the Dorsey versus Trump battle. The bigger worry is around the R word regulation because when you take a step back in terms of big tech versus the Beltway, that is sort of brewing going into the late summer fall. And we look at Facebook, Google, Amazon as well, and that's why I think it was important Zuckerberg and Facebook took the opposite stance because right now, for an investor perspective, it's all about regulation. And it's a slippery slope. And I think that's the worry with what we saw with Twitter is that it starts here, but where does it lead to? And does that put gasoline in the engines of some in the Beltway going after big tech, which is the broader worry, as we go into the fall, especially a presidential election.
And in terms of the scale of that risk, when we talk about more regulation, is this potentially going to be an entire business model risk for some of these tech players?
Yeah, our view is likely it's fines, but there's no doubt you're seeing a drum roll both from the DOJ, from a state AG perspective, but also in terms of the Senate, as we're starting to see more and more hearings, Bezos likely going to be there in the fall. I think it's mostly fines, but I think there's a lot of twists and turns this could take. The one thing I would point out, you're going to see big tech really halt any major M&A. I think you're going to see a lot more scrutiny of that. You're seeing that with Facebook, potentially Google, Fitbit, because that's the bigger issue. I think big tech, the main way that they're going to continue to add to their product portfolio is acquisitions. Right now, a brighter spotlight on that, given some of the antitrust worries, especially going into the next 6 to 12 months.